Ever had someone piss you off so much you made a whole YouTube channel just to rant about them? Because I have. Here we are. Hey y'all, I'm Nodi.
Noddy! He toots his horn to say, make way for Noddy. Noddy! Come on out and play. Singing, it's a happy day. Noddy's here, make way.
Today I want to talk about Sarah Stevenson, more commonly known as Sarah's Day. Now, if you didn't know, Sarah is a fitness YouTuber and an influencer from Australia with over 1 million followers on YouTube and Instagram, promoting a holistic approach to health and wellness.
Good morning guys, and officially welcome back to my channel.
I found Sarah back in 2016, and even though I'm not that into influencer / lifestyle content creators, I got hooked onto her content. However, over the years, Sarah has gotten into some questionable stuff which made me rethink about supporting her in any way. But what truly drove me into making this video was the Sabi and Soul incident. In the November of 2020, Sarah uploaded a series of Instagram stories calling out the brand Sabi and Soul. Sabi and Soul is this small business that sell homeware like cushions with exotic print, mainly Moroccan and Turkish. Sarah pretty much blasted this brand, claiming that she bought cushion inserts from them that she hasn't received, coming to the conclusion that the brand is a scam and is fraud. Now, what happened afterwards is absolutely repugnant. Sarah's millions of followers flocked over to this business's account and spammed with hate comments all over their Instagram. There were people making up lies and claims with no proof whatsoever to get Sarah's validation, and in the process, Sabi and Soul got thrown under the bus. Now, what bothered me was that Sarah claimed that the brand has been unresponsive to her for over a month, after which she reached out to them via email, to which she got no reply. However, in her stories, she showed that her orders had been placed on the 15th of October and the email was sent on the 6th of November. So it hasn't been a month, it's been 3 weeks at most. Also, in the FAQ section of the Sabi and Soul website, it stated that cushion inserts must be purchased alongside cushion covers. Orders with inserts only, like Sarah's, will be cancelled due to limited stock. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Sabi and Soul is completely blameless in this. However, this was no way to handle a situation. Sarah definitely had the upper hand here with over 1 million followers, whereas Sabi and Soul on Instagram has barely 3,000. If Sarah was actually concerned about getting scammed, she could have contacted ScamWatch or consumer.gov.au, or even shared a post about being cautious when purchasing things online instead of publicly shaming this business. What was interesting though is that after being called out for misinformation, Sarah quickly deleted all of her posts regarding Sabi and Soul, and it was never mentioned again. However, Sabi and Soul's business suffered due to this defamation, to the point they were even questioning the point of it all. Mind you, all of this went down during the pandemic, under which small businesses have already suffered enough. Now imagine waking up to hundreds of hate comments for something that isn't even true. Unfortunately, this wasn't the first time Sarah abused her platform when things didn't go her way. On December of 2019, Sarah was invited to a sponsored trip to Hawaii via Hawaiian Airlines. However, on her way, she ran into some trouble.
Issue with the plane, great. I don't want to fly on a broken plane. Like, I will get off and I'm happy to wait and I'm happy for the plane to stand if the flight is delayed, if something is wrong with the plane. However, over the intercom, like sound system of the plane, they said, hey, the plane is broken basically. Everyone has to get off the flight. We're sorry, we're cancelling. If you live in Sydney, we suggest you go home. We were like, okay, we will go home, but then what? Do we get our suitcases out? Do we unpack our stuff? Are we going in the morning? We get off the flight, we line up for an hour to go through quarantine or customs or whatever, even though we haven't even left the country. So we have to like sign those paperwork stuff and check our passports. Then we have to line up and get our bags. So then I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, I'm so sorry. Like, can you come and pick us up? Because the baby seat is in his car.
Now, I truly feel for Sarah, especially with a small child. I can't even imagine how inconvenient it must be for them. However, if Sarah left it at that, I would understand. No, she had to take it on Instagram, blast the airlines in her stories by repeatedly tagging them, calling them unprofessional, straight up saying never fly with them. As imagine, her stance flew over, pun intended, to this airline's Instagram, leaving all sorts of hate comments, sticking up for Sarah. Now, she eventually did manage to make it to Hawaii, but by then her stance had pretty much infiltrated Hawaiian Airlines. Now, you might be wondering, why hasn't she gotten backlash for any of this yet? Well, it's because she plays a strategy called deflect, delete, and block every time she gets into a controversy. After getting called out for the Sabi and Soul incident, she immediately deleted every single one of those stories. Then she uploaded a photo of her with her son promoting positivity, posted stories with one of her fans to virtue signal. By then, if anyone got to her heavily curated Instagram, they would hesitate to call her out. Every time she gets called out on some scandal, she spams her feed and stories with her toddler, photos of her spreading love and positivity. That would make people feel bad for calling her out. Sarah also have shown to abuse her power to not just businesses but to anyone who pretty much disagrees with her. On August of 2020, Sarah was in the process of renovating her new house. She had some issues with the windows, and as you may have guessed, she took it on Instagram stories to vent. Now, some people had an issue with Sarah complaining about something so minor during a pandemic where people are losing jobs. However, Sarah decided to dox one of these messages to her millions of followers, pretty much wanting her stance to harass this person because people need to be held accountable. On top of all this, Sarah meticulously blocks and deletes any comment or criticism that doesn't align with her. In fact, I'll just insert a compilation and let it speak for itself. Aside from YouTube, Sarah also partners with numerous brands to sell products that align with her content. Now, over her career, she has probably partnered with hundreds of brands, but for the sake of this video, I'll be focusing on 3 brands that she works most closely with. The Bang Body, who Sarah partnered with to bring her skincare products, Topeka, whom Sarah partnered with for her Body Bloom and Fit Protein, and probably what she is most well known for is her collection of activewear with White Fox Boutique. Now, most, if not all of her products are exact replica of existing brands or eerily similar. Her Body Bloom powder has pretty much the exact same ingredients as Beauty Chef's Glow powder that she used to take back in 2016. The packaging of her deodorant Pity Party with La Bang is the exact same packaging as this other Australian brand, just a different shade of pink. Her activewear is plagiarized from various brands like PE Nation and Lilybod. Even one of the swimwear is exact replica from an existing brand with the same name. Her newest collection is a complete rip-off from Cotton On. There was a speculation going on for a while that all of White Fox's products are made in Chinese sweatshops when this account was found following them on Instagram, even though on the About Us page on White Fox's website they claim to have ethical manufacturing. However, White Fox then themselves admitted that their garments are ethically made in China with gold certified standards. Yeah, that gold standards probably means nothing when it comes to fast fashion brands like White Fox, which explains the poor quality of their products whilst being incredibly overpriced. Now, I do acknowledge that it's probably not Sarah's fault that these brands are engaging in unethical practices like cheap labor and plagiarization. However, she is still playing a huge role by slapping her name onto all of these products, promoting them in pretty much every single one of her posts, so she is taking part in this unethical behavior. Speaking of unethical behavior, Sarah has a track record of those as well. Now, before I get started on this section, I would like to give a content warning as I will be discussing topics like racism, culture appropriation, homophobia, and bushfires. I would also like to apologize beforehand if I pronounce any of the cultural terms wrong in this section. In the March of 2020, Sarah got under fire for cultural appropriation as she posted photos of her hair in braids for her next activewear campaign. This was during the George Floyd incident, so people were already racially charged. She then made this half-assed apology for damage control.
Most recent post on my Instagram, and it's, oh my god, I don't want to cry, it's so stupid. I just get sad if I make anyone upset, you know?
Yeah.
Like, my whole channel and everything I do is making you happy and empowering everyone, and everyone's asking me questions. Like, even if they're mean questions, everyone's like, why the F do you think it's okay to wear
Yeah.
braids? Like,
Look,
this is me answering. This is me answering.
Yeah, this is a very serious topic, and like for us to be put in this category is very scary for us because this is the complete opposite of what we're about.
I was the one who first came up with the braid idea thing, and what if you are offended, what you want to hear from me is a genuine apology, and this is it. I'm so sorry. I screwed up.
We all are.
I was misinformed, uneducated, and I'm doing my best now to educate myself and to use my platform, because I don't know what it feels like to be offended in that way, you know what I mean? Like, I can't say what I did was right, you know, because if you're offended, there's a reason for it, and you're totally allowed to feel offended. So, like I said, I don't want anyone to feel sad. I want this collection to, like, empower you and make you feel confident, and I still stand by that.
Even after the apology, she continued to play the victim in this situation through complaining and showing disappointment towards the whole thing. Comments regarding this calling her out were deleted and blocked as expected. She then put up a highlight reel on her Instagram about Black Lives Matter, but her posts came off as virtue signaling and even hypocritical, especially when she had already silenced so many black voices. Now, I was willing to give Sarah the benefit of the doubt until she had another instance of cultural appropriation with the Idaki incident. On Father's Day in Australia, which is due in September, Sarah's fiance Kurt uploaded a photo of himself playing the didgeridoo that is innate to Aboriginal culture. Needless to say, neither Sarah nor Kurt has any Aboriginal descent, especially when it was purchased from a business that is not Aboriginal owned. This time, an Instagram account by the name of Black Business run by a Koori woman named Olivia came forward and was willing to educate them on this topic. However, Olivia, despite having quite a big influence, kept on getting silenced. Her comments were deleted, restricted, and ultimately she was blocked by both Sarah and Kurt on Instagram. When she did get a response, they turned on her, tone policing her passion on this topic, making it seem like her fault. Olivia wrote a whole article about this situation. I'll link it in the description below for you to check it out. What's the point of having a highlight reel promoting racial inclusivity while you silence those very people you claim to give a voice to? That just screams virtue signaling to me. Now that Idaki is soft aside with her kid climbing all over her. Earlier this year and around the end of last year during the Australian bushfires, Sarah came up with a fundraiser with Labang where every one of her products purchased, $1 will go to a bushfire donation.
We announced the launch of my body butter, my Triple R bar, and the Peachy Clean exfoliator. So that launched yesterday, and a few days ago, as you guys know, there's been really intense bushfires around Sydney and Queensland, and I was donating to some of the charities, and I was thinking, what else can I do to give back to the bushfire victims and everyone involved? So myself and Labang have decided that every product sold in the next 48 hours, $1 will go towards St. Vincent's Bushfire Appeal. So yeah, if you purchase one of my products with Labang, then $1 will go towards that, and I'm just so happy that I can give back.
Now, this was met with a lot of backlash and hate because when you go on Labang's website, all of their products with Sarah range between the prices of $17 to $60. The cheapest item we could purchase at the time cost $17. Out of that, only $1 would be going to charity. That is less than 6%. This blew up to the point even the mainstream media started talking about it. 7 News, one of the highest rating news service in Australia, wrote an article on it. It was very clear that their intention was really to boost the sales, not raise money for the bushfires. What I personally found shocking about the whole thing is that Sarah genuinely believed this to be a good idea. If anything, this shows how out of touch she is from reality.
Okay, so I've just left the gym because I could not train with all this stuff going on. So I was just checking the comments, and I was so excited to share that donation opportunity with you guys because I thought it was a fun idea for all of us to get involved. I just got so much hate on that post. And this is a classic example of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. The amount of hate we just got is actually disgusting. Like, we were trying to do something fun that was going to give back to everyone. And yeah, I'm really disappointed in like 20% of the people because this was coming from a really honest, authentic, giving place.
After scraping off that fundraiser, Sarah made 100% of her ebooks and workout program sales to be going towards bushfire charities. Now, this was a much better initiative, and it raised nearly $400,000. However, Sarah upheld the money for weeks and refused to show receipts of her donation. Comments asking her about the money were deleted and blocked. Sarah then claimed that the bank was having some issues, which created another conundrum.
And like the first lady didn't even take me seriously. She was like, just as soon as I said how much I wanted to transfer, she was like, I think you've got the numbers wrong and blah blah blah. And it's just like awkward.
Eventually, Sarah did post receipts of her donation when she was reported to ScamWatch, upholding the money for nearly 3 weeks. She has not yet addressed this situation, and some speculate she intentionally held the money for a greater interest in return. Now, Sarah wasn't the only one who got into controversies regarding bushfires. Her fiancé Kurt, who is a photographer, used bushfires and burning homes as a backdrop for his campaign with True Protein. When addressing the backlash, Kurt responded with having raised and donated over $400,000 to 4 different charities, so they have done their part. Yeah, he isn't much better either. They are, if anything, they're made for each other. On the topic of Kurt, he has gotten backlash about a year ago when this photo of him spelling out a homophobic slur on Scrabble was shared by Sarah. This explains why, in the outfit swap video, when Sarah bought him traditionally feminine clothes like skirts and sandals, he reacted so strongly.
This is...
Wait.
Nah.
No. Yes.
No, this is bull. No.
Welcome to Coachella Cronulla style, darling.
No, I can't. No, this is not fair.
This is festival.
This is not fair.
It is on your size.
No, this is not fair. I'm gonna get you back for this, Sarah.
Bring it.
Oh, you're going down, bud. Oh. I'm not wearing this freaking skirt.
In fact, every time they do try to make a skit where they try to be funny, it always involves dressing up Kurt in traditionally feminine clothes. I honestly thought we as a society have moved past, gender binary, transphobic jokes like, haha, look, he's a boy, dressing like a girl, wearing a skirt. So funny. But I guess we have not. So the couple has gotten themselves into quite a bit of controversies. And when you are that problematic and have such a huge platform and influence online, there's only so many comments you could delete, only so many people you could block, only so much damage you could control. So what do? Do you either address all of these issues and sincerely apologize and promise to do better? You wait. Or create a completely unnecessary campaign just to say F you to everyone. Social media at times can feel like this apocalyptic world of negativity and a playground for online scrutiny. It is so easy to fall a victim to some form of online bullying. Rise above is a metaphor for this online dystopian world. Rise above the hate, do what makes you happy, wear what makes you feel good, be confident and be fearless. This was Kurt's caption under their post on the Reboot campaign. This was created far too soon after their recent controversies. Prior to the campaign, Kurt had stated that this will be different than their previous campaigns as it will have a deeper meaning. There were various clues put throughout the clip that made it very clear what the deeper meaning might be. I'll link a video below that analyzes this in greater detail. This campaign, I might add, was for a restock for existing products. The only new item that was included were these bike shorts. A design for this already existed in form of leggings. I guess the only good thing that came out of this campaign was that it finally included some diversity with a model of color and a plus size model. However, this was after White Fox came under fire hundreds of times for not including diversity in their previous campaigns. When it did have diversity, the models were used as tokens, as they were pushed to the side while Sarah still stood in the spotlight. In some of the photos, you could barely even see them. Also, none of the photos on the White Fox's website were updated with these models. It's all just Sarah.
So I do a little bit of organic unsweetened almond milk. This is the one that I get for him. And then I do a little bit of hot water to make like the milk warm. I do half a teaspoon of plain unsweetened and unflavored collagen. This is marine collagen. Then I do a half a teaspoon of kefir. And then once a day, I'll give him half a teaspoon of this children's DHA. This one is cod liver oil. I really like this one. and then he's on a special antiviral herb mix from our baby herbalist.
Now, I've previously mentioned how Sarah prides herself on being holistic when it comes to health and fitness. On her Instagram bio, she claims herself to be YouTube's holistic health princess. Now, if you didn't know, holistic in healthcare means caring for the whole person, treating all aspects of health, and working towards preventing the cause of the illness rather than simply treating the symptoms, which is what Western medicine tends to do. Now, I'm straight away going to admit that Western medicine is not perfect. There are various gaps when it comes to traditional route of healthcare. I'm sure many of you had experiences where doctors were completely oblivious to your health problems and didn't know what was wrong with you. And there are reasons for that. For years, medicine has been practiced on male bodies, which is why female health is still quite a mystery to most medical doctors. That is why you see so many female influencers with an alternative approach to health, like Sarah, popping up on social media in the recent years, gaining popularity as she is giving a voice and providing hope to those who are lost and hopeless when it comes to treating their health issues, especially among women. However, with that being said, Western medicine has contributed tremendously to people's longevity and quality of life. Thanks to vaccines, there are hundreds of life-threatening diseases that has been eradicated from the world, such as polio, measles, tetanus, just to name a few. With that in mind, during the December of 2017, Sarah was diagnosed with cervical dysplasia, otherwise known as SYN3.
Okay, I just want to get this over and done with. I have SYN3, so cervical dysplasia. I'm at level 3, which means I'm at the most high risk stage. So basically there's stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3, and then there's cervical cancer.
Now, cervical dysplasia is the development of abnormal cells within the tissues or organs, cervix in this case. Obviously that sounds horrible. However, one thing Sarah forgot to mention was that SYN3 has a high regression rate compared to many other cases of abnormal development of cell growth within the body. Then about 7 months later, Sarah uploads a video called How I Healed Myself Naturally, Cervical Dysplasia SYN3 High Grade, where she claimed to have treated her cervix through diet and shifting her mindset.
Made a lot of lifestyle changes. So at that point I was killing it in the gym. I was doing really intense workouts. Even if I was happy, it probably was stressing my body out a little bit. So from then on, I just took a really gentle approach to my whole life. I got more sleep. I would swap out some of my sprint sessions for Pilates, or I would just stretch at home. I was trying to think positively and even just saying positive affirmations to myself. I prayed a lot. My sisters prayed over me. My mum prayed over me. He was on the phone and he said, "I'm so excited and overwhelmed to tell you that you are now possible low grade. High grade anymore, you're not even moderate grade, you're not even low grade, you are just possible low grade." Shocked. So proud of myself that I did it. I really just can't believe it. It's definitely the most serious health issue that I've been able to tackle in a healthy, holistic, natural way. Yeah, at the end of the day, my takeaway is to increase immunity, increase antioxidants, eat as natural and whole food based as possible. If you can get organic, great. If you can't, don't stress. Try to decrease the stress in your life. Yeah, that's pretty much how I did it.
However, there is no known link between the regression and diet and lifestyle changes.
According to data cited by Cancer Council Australia, 30% of SYN3 cases will regress spontaneously. Abnormal cells are no longer detected in a woman's cervix. It also says there is no known link between this process of regression and diet or lifestyle factors. But it's still really important to have your regular cervical cancer screening tests, because in the absence of screening, 14 to 31% of cases of SYN3 progress to invasive cancer. So the current evidence doesn't back up Sarah's claim it was all her doing, that she'd healed herself.
I do think we need to be cautious of these really wonderful, rosy stories about self-healing.
Natalia Melman-Petruzzello, an associate professor of history at the New School, studies the history of wellness and fitness culture. I got her to watch Sarah's SYN3 cure video.
Of course, there's a basis in the fact that your nutrition matters and your outlook matters and all that stuff. One of the things that bothers me, which I think was apparent in her story too, was positioning a kind of false equivalency between her journey and scientific medicine, right? I don't want to discount anyone's agency. I think that those two are not the same thing.
I am truly happy happy for Sarah that her approach has worked, even though that's questionable. But she is doing better now, which is great. However, she is still providing dangerous advice to her audience of predominantly teenage girls. Sarah used her approach under the guidance of professionals that she had access to. Most people may not even have access to that. The most common procedure for SYN3 is a cone biopsy that is relatively simple and non-invasive. However, Sarah's approach took her 3 months to see results. If during those months one fails to see any results, then they have just wasted their time, which could have worsened their condition or at worst lead to cancer. This wasn't the only time Sarah rejected Western medicine and attempted to heal herself naturally. During the September of 2017, Sarah suffered from a staph infection.
The mistake I made last time was just trying to treat it naturally at home, and while that is my philosophy in life, #home remedies, I've been doing that for the last 3 days and it's just getting progressively worse. And I mean, like, in the last hour, my knee wasn't that bad when I pressed record, so it's like really speeding up. So unfortunately, I'm just gonna suck it up and go to the doctor. The most annoying thing is that if you go back on my vlogs, like 4 vlogs ago, I just did a whole vlog dedicated to my gut health, because obviously on the antibiotic drip, my gut got completely ruined and I had the worst digestion and I felt sick and it was just not a good time. I worked the last month in like eating lots of probiotics and having bone broth and spending all my time making crazy soup concoctions, only to ruin it again because I'm about to be prescribed antibiotics again.
Honestly, you could die from staph infection. They're no joke. Yeah, the antibiotics give you a gurgly tummy, whatever that even means, but that's better than dying. And I'm not trashing on natural remedies. However, if your doctor prescribed you certain medication, you should take it. I know in all of these instances, Sarah gives somewhat of a disclaimer like, it's my life, it's my journey, I'm just showing you what I'm doing.
So with any kind of health issue, obviously I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor. All I'm doing is sitting here and telling you my story and what I did. Take from that what you will, but especially with your serious health issues, I highly recommend and highly advise you and encourage you to go to your medical professional, like your gynecologist and your doctors or whoever you want to go to, and listen to their advice. And that's what I did.
However, when you have that large of a following, these disclaimers are pretty much useless and just an easy cop-out. Especially if your audience primarily consists of young, impressionable teenage girls who idolize everything you do. In leading up to the birth of her first child, Sarah was planning for an all-natural, unmedicated, drug-free birth. However, that was potentially harmful for her baby, given that he was smaller in size, so doctors advised her to get induced.
So I'm 39 weeks and 4 days. Idealistically, we had this natural birth plan. Long story short, we went to the ultrasound and everything is in proportion in the baby, but he is just teeny tiny.
He's a little baby.
He's little. So they said not only is he in the lowest percentile, but he's in like the lowest percentile.
Yeah, Sarah's been like not against it. You just didn't want to have to be induced. You wanted to go into it naturally.
Even after that, she stuck with a natural birth plan and even antagonized the doctor who wanted her to get induced.
Another doctor on who's just read your file. This doctor has never met me, by the way, and they want you to come in and they want you induced right now. My pregnancy was just me and my midwives, and we knew each other and everything was great. And then as soon as you're high risk, you have to deal with the doctor who's on call, and they've never met you and there's different doctors, so the plans change. So yeah, there was this new doctor, and without hating or being really negative, she didn't deliver her message in the best way. Really pressured Kurt and I to get induced, and the way that she was saying it, it kind of made us feel guilty for not being induced. One random doctor just really wanted to induce me. I was just feeling really disheartened because I was really happy at home. Things were happening. I was dilating. I was contracting. I was like, just give me a few hours. I'm gonna have this baby by myself.
Thankfully, her baby was fine. However, she still had quite a painful and full-on birth, to the point she needed an epidural and ended up getting an episiotomy. Now, all of these instances of rejecting Western medicine caused many to speculate that Sarah is actually anti-vax, rightfully so. She even blocked someone for asking about vaccinations. The birth of a child, she has never updated or even mentioned to her audience about his vaccinations, which is a milestone for most babies. She has shared many milestones of him online, like his first crawl, his first time at the beach, his first birthday, even oversharing in some cases. This kid's not even 2 years old yet, and he already has his face plastered on brands, used as a model, propped for her products. Her most popular videos are involving him. So it's not about protecting his privacy. Sarah also runs a podcast with her partner Kurt called The Health Code. Around June of this year, they invited CEO and co-founder of Topeka, Caleb Marshall.
My story starts, I suppose, from this perspective in 2011. So I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is a doctor's polite way of saying, hey, I've got no idea what's wrong with you. From 2011 to mid-2014, I felt like I'd been hit by a bus every single day. Conventional doctors said, hey, I had chronic fatigue syndrome. And the worst thing about that is the lack of hope, because they're like, hey, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know when you'll be healthy again. And this led me on to researching through holistic doctors, so functional doctors, which practice functional medicine, which is treating the body as a whole. And I learned that I had destroyed my gut, and I destroyed my gut through long-term antibiotic use. So from the ages of 17 to 21, my doctor had prescribed, my family GP had prescribed me antibiotics for my skin, so minomycin. And then it literally destroyed my gut. I got sick because I felt like I'd been hit by a bus every day and I had flu-like symptoms. My doctor also prescribed me antibiotics because of that. And which is like so ironic and crazy. Like we do that a lot. We treat symptoms, whereas like functional doctors, functional medicine, like look at the root cause.
Now, I am glad that Caleb is doing a lot better now, but I found the demonizing of doctors and antibiotics pretty problematic, to say the least.
I say this to you every day. What do I say? I say, no one cares as much as you
me.
do.
Yeah, exactly.
In not in a negative way, but like you can't give up because the doctor doesn't care as much as you care about yourself.
Again, I deeply empathize with anyone who is struggling or have struggled with health conditions that doctors are clueless about. I have been there. But to trash years of hard work in med school, to trivialize all the great things Western medicine has brought to mankind and saying doctors don't care about you is deeply harmful and dangerous. Not to mention, neither Sarah nor Caleb have any qualifications regarding health nor medicine. Being in a position where you're able to explore and afford alternative ways of healing and have access to things like naturopaths, it's a privilege that most people don't have. On websites like Reddit and other gossip forums, there are people who know Sarah in person, have come forward and said that she is openly anti-vax among people who are close to her. In one instance, when she did work with a nutritionist, that nutritionist is openly anti-vax, talks about conditions like the leaky gut syndrome, which isn't even a real condition, promotes anemas. Sarah and Kurt also follow Pete Evans on Instagram. Pete Evans, if you didn't know, is an Australian chef who is a former judge on the cooking show My Kitchen Rules. He, as you may have guessed, is openly anti-vax and anti-sunscreen. Now, I'm not saying Sarah is anti-vax, as there is no hardcore evidence like she straight up coming out and saying that she is. However, given her past actions of demonizing antibiotics and other Western medicine, dehumanizing medical doctors, and her association with people who are very openly anti-vax or anti-pharmacy in general, she might as well be. And this is especially concerning because we're not talking about a boomer or a Karen on Facebook in this case. This is someone with millions of followers and a huge influence online.
But at school, what does everyone's parents do? Mommy walks around in a crop top and then booty shorts, and she takes selfies, and she films herself, and she's so silly.
Now, this last topic I'd like to talk about does not exclusively relate to Sarah. In fact, a lot of other influencers fall under this. Again, content warning for this section, I will be discussing topics of eating disorders and body image. As early as 2016, Sarah has undisclosed sponsorship of products on her channel. She used to regularly partner with this organic chocolate brand called Loving Earth.
And I also had these from Loving Earth. They are chocolate coated Inkenberries. Yep.
Take me to places that I want you.
Starting off on a bit of a bad foot here because I thought I would only need 2 blocks of the Loving Earth dark chocolate, and oh my, was I wrong. So for the quantities of the fruit and nut that I used, I needed 5. This chocolate is organic, cane sugar free and vegan, and it's the chocolate that I've been using in my desserts for the past 6 years.
In those clips, she She never once mentioned that she was in a paid partnership with Loving Earth, never mentioned that she had an affiliate link or a discount code. Now, this is incredibly misleading because I'm out there thinking, wow, this girl genuinely likes and is paying for this chocolate, I should check it out. When I finally found them at my local health food store, it was $3 for this tiny amount of 30 grams. Then I'm like, okay, how is she able to afford so much of this chocolate? Oh yeah, she's probably getting them for free. Now, the rules of product endorsement on YouTube is pretty cutthroat and black and white. There are very strict rules, like if you're promoting a product, you have to disclose it within the first 30 seconds of your video, and you have to make sure that your audience knows that they're watching what essentially is an ad. However, for some reason, rules about sponsored content in Australia is quite lenient, but FTC rules based on US is quite rigid and still applicable if majority of your audience are from the US. On the topic of chocolate, one of the reasons Sarah so deliberately promoted Loving Earth was because it was organic, gluten-free, vegan, soy-free, has less ingredients. Now, at the time of watching her, I was barely 14 and I didn't even know how that signaled signs of controlled and disordered eating behaviors from her. She would constantly worry about food labels like gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, even though it doesn't necessarily mean healthy. Literally most of our meals are just powdery smoothies because, let's be honest, when you claim to be intolerant to that many things, there isn't much you can eat.
Literally my second time eating for the day. Let's make my smoothie and then I'll give you the update of the day. So I've obviously got the organic frozen blueberries in there, and then my source of protein is going to be the Topeka Lean Vanilla Protein. Then I'm going to add some maca powder. So I'm just doing like half a teaspoon. And then I'm probably going to add like a teaspoon of acai powder. I just did like half a tablespoon of almond butter. And then I'll add some cheese seeds at the end. I've gained a solid 3 kilos, put on a little bit of fat, and yeah, I'm not very fit anymore. I wouldn't say I'm hesitant to show you my before footage. I'm just like ashamed in myself, if that makes sense. Not ashamed, I don't know. Like, you guys know that my stomach is like the lean part of my body. So when I see that my stomach has blown out and isn't lean anymore, I know something's wrong. This is what my body is looking like now. That's 3 weeks post-surgery after eating crap loads of food. Literally all I did was eat. All I ate was sugar and carbs, and you guys know that my body does not respond well to that at all. And for the last week I've been eating lots of dairy, which I shouldn't because my body can't absorb dairy very well. I haven't even been eating good dairy though. It hasn't even been like healthy cheese and milk. It's been like protein stuff. So I've been eating heaps of protein puddings and protein bars because I've just been really naughty. So I literally keep waking up every morning with the worst stomach aches and I don't want to eat. So I don't eat till like 2 o'clock because I feel so sick. And then I binge and just eat everything in the cupboard. This is the almond milk I use. A lot of things set my stomach off. I try to keep my diet as clean as possible. And I'm very picky with my almond milk now, especially like in my coffee. I like will ask the barista what kind of almond milk they use, but I really like this one. The brand is Pure Harvest and I just get this one from Woolworths, like it's like my local shopping center. And the only ingredients are filtered water, organic activated almonds, which is fabulous because I love activated nuts, brown rice, sea salt, and natural almond essence. Boom. That's it. I challenge you to go and look at your almond milk. There are so many crazy ingredients in lots of them. Like, it's all full of like chemicals and things that I've never even heard of before. And for me, my stomach is so sensitive. Random things set me off, like sunflower oil or soy lectin. I love this one, and I know that whatever I put it in, it won't make me feel sick. Don't judge me. I'll probably end up drinking a liter of this because I'm hungry. Choc mint smoothie, which was really filling. It was like, I swear there was like 4 bananas in it or something. Entered a bar class, so 45 minutes bar. So I went for a run. I ended up running 5Ks in like 25 minutes. So I went over to that tree and I did like a 7-minute workout.
Sarah even shames her family for not following her style of diet and exercise. On the incident of her sister Emily's birthday, Emily made a whole post on the subreddit of r/AITA, or Am I the Arsehole, on the whole thing. It's quite obvious that it's about Sarah. I'll put it on the screen for you to read, but if you can't be bothered, here's what happened. So basically, Sarah volunteered to bring cake for Emily's birthday party. Now, knowing how much of a health nut Sarah is, Emily knew that she was going to bring some gluten-free, dairy-free concoction that's probably not going to taste very great. So Emily was like, Sarah, please, could you please bring a normal cake? It's my birthday. Then Sarah pretty much went on about how it's against her way of life and what she believes, and if you are truly healthy, you wouldn't crave sweets, blah blah blah. So as expected, she bought this healthy cake, which is just a shit ton of coconut milk with sugar covered in vegan chocolate. I mean, Emily's reaction says it all.
This is delicious. It tastes just like a bounty. This is delicious. It tastes like a Milky Way. A bounty.
So yeah, Emily took one bite and was not having it. Sarah made such a big deal out of it, calling her a brat, calling her selfish, all on her birthday, mind you. Emily just left and had some real cake afterwards. Yeah, I would hate to have Sarah in my family. Now, Sarah claims to be gluten and dairy intolerant, suffers from PCOS and hormonal imbalance, but she has not been medically diagnosed with any of these issues. She used to repeatedly do these project comebacks where she would miss a workout because life happens, and then work herself to death over exercising and undereating. Previously mentioned Sarah's Body Bloom, which claims to heal your gut, nails and skin, as well as
Like it's great for not going to beat around the bush, my morning poop.
so laxative. You're essentially taking laxatives. This is especially concerning when this sort of behavior is promoted to a young audience. Sarah continued her regime of restrictive diet and exercise even during her pregnancy. In fact, even after giving birth, she went back to her old regimen of dieting and over-exercising earlier than her doctors recommended. She claimed that her son self-weaned himself, whereas in reality she stopped breastfeeding him because it was causing her to hold on to too much body fat. So she put him on formula instead. She continued to promote and plug in her ebooks, her workout guides. Mind you, none of those she had any qualifications to create after her pregnancy, claiming she got her body back from these exercises. Never once she mentioned that she suffers from a stage 2 prolapse, in which jumping exercises like the ones she promotes in her ebooks are strictly forbidden, as it can damage the pelvic floor even further. Not only that, she also continued to shame new moms for not doing what she was doing.
I never, ever, ever considered an epidural, not at all, and I just... If you're interested, there was a part of my birth that I was sitting on the toilet and I just wanted to like push him out because I was sick of this. That's just like competitive Sarah coming out, and I was like, oh, maybe I can feel him, and I pushed so hard that all this blood was just coming out of me, and then I was in so much pain that I was whacking my head against the wall trying to pass out. I somewhat remember whacking my head and everyone was like, what are you doing? And I was kind of, I was trying to knock myself out. And I was begging for an epidural. And in my birth plan, I wrote, make me beg like 12 times. I have to ask you 12 times, being really serious, I want an epidural. And I was like grabbing Kurt's face. I was like, please, I'm serious. Please, no, I'm serious. I want an epidural, please. And he knew, he knew. So I was crying, saying, I'm so sorry, Kurt. I'm so sorry. I couldn't do it. He was crying, saying, no, you're doing so well. No, and like moaning and groaning so loud. Like, I never thought I would be a moaner and groaner in labor. I would see people doing that on their vlogs. I'm like, why are you moaning and groaning?
Add this to my highlights. It's, I think, what did I call it? Comeback or fitness?
If you're a new mom watching this, please don't let Sarah make you feel bad if you're not where you feel like you should be. Again, it's not just Sarah. Our culture as a whole dismisses a woman's body after childbearing unless the signs of it has been erased as soon as possible after, or it has bounced back. Just remember, you just grew a human, and your beautiful Baba doesn't care if you got abs or if you're shredded or if you've bounced back, whatever that even means, because it's different for everyone. Sarah prides herself on being a small human.
At the start of year 10, I was like 45 kilos, and by the end of year 10, I was 57, and I had lost muscle. So you know that muscle weighs more than fat, so for me to put on over 10 kilos and have lost muscle, like I was chunk. I was not supposed to be that chunky. I'm very petite, I'm supposed to be small, so that was not healthy for me at all.
To the point, every single video she has done featuring White Fox, she has to remind us that she wears a small or an extra small. In fact, Just cue the compilation.
So I'm wearing extra small tights, shorts, sorry, and an extra small crop. This is an extra small in both.
Got the Racer leggings and the Racer sports bra. This is very similar at Fox headquarters. Every girl I walked past with white rider up, drawing it up, showing it to what I loved too much and I wore too early. Bring it out in black and white because I love both of those colors. But it is a long sleeve seamless top. I'm wearing an extra small to small. I just love and the Monza leggings. This is actually a set in homage to my dad, which sounds beside in the tangerine. It is just making my 90s heart so full. If you can't tell by my latest hairstyles and like lip gloss, Team Captain sweater, I named it that because I love this one. The pink is like so much, and I actually loved it was just going to be like a really good base collection. I'm loving how high these are. As you can see, I'm really a cropped t-shirt, and I named this one Throw It On. This one, the Femme Fierce top. I love it. I love it so. Not too bright, but not too grey. I'm a sucker for a good cut of a jumper. My definition of good is oversized, but like the right kind of oversized. Set of the collection is the Soldier set. So I'm wearing a small in the sports bra and an extra small in the tights, super high waisted. So I wear a small top and extra small in the leggings, but a small in the shorts, like the little black shorts.
Guys, I think she is small. You know, the funny thing is that in many of the tops, it's clear that the size she is wearing is too small for her. Like in this one, the top is literally chapping her torso. Sarah, Cesar, it's okay to be a small, to even be a medium. Hell, wear whatever size fits you and you feel comfortable in. Why don't you just practice what you preach for once? Act confident and no one will question you. At one point, Sarah even lost her period due to overexercising and undereating.
Before I got pregnant, my most shredded, toned physique ever was this here. So a few years ago, that is what I looked like. I've been really open and honest about that time of my life, and I've said that I didn't have my period then. I didn't sleep. I had major night sweats. My hair was so thin, like I would have chunks of hair falling out.
You know, I'm glad that she is transparent about this. However, what I don't understand is why are photos from around the same time are used in your ebooks as her aftershots. Not only that, when that photo in particular was uploaded on Instagram, you said that you felt confident and that style of working out has changed your life. So, which is it? While Sarah has not yet been officially diagnosed with an eating disorder, it's very clear that her attitude towards food and exercise is really problematic and disordered. So much to the point, many of her followers with diagnosed eating disorders actually stopped watching her because she triggered their ED. Her constant body checks and body updates are damaging for people who are insecure about their body. Now, I myself have struggled with my relationship with food, especially around the time I was watching Sarah. While thankfully I don't have an eating disorder, what I do know about them is that most of the time it's less about vanity and wanting to look a certain way, and more about control over the food you eat, control over how much you work out, just in general control over your body. Now, Sarah straight up admits that she's a control freak, to the point directed not only just towards food and her body, but towards other aspects of her life as well.
The other day.
She's so needy.
Okay, if I'm not calling you or messaging you, this is what I did. Did you notice the other day? Kurt and his friend Brenton went to the new house. We have a gym set up in the new house. They went to the new house and they were training. And so I was like, oh, is it creepy if I go there? I literally just like popped up in the window.
I know. I was like, what are you doing here?
And I was like, oh no, I'm just checking the deck and I'm going to go take Abby for a walk. But I miss you.
Yeah, you walked in for 2 seconds, then you walked out again. I knew exactly why you were there, just to make sure I was training really hard.
No, I just miss you. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Or I text,
But
like,
that's the beauty of that, right? Having time apart, it gives you time to miss each other.
yeah,
you know?
5 minutes, too much.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably just like, oh, she's being cute and needy, she misses him. Well, to that I want to say, would that be okay if the roles were reversed? Just even forget about Sarah for a second. Say if it were your friend being controlled and essentially stalked by her boyfriend, would that be okay just because he loves her? If your answer is no, then it shouldn't be okay in this case either. By no means I'm out here defending Kurt. In fact, I just talked about some of his problematic behaviors as well. However, no matter how close you are with a person, doesn't matter if it's your mom, dad, partner, son, whoever, everyone should have the right to privacy. I want to make this clear. I don't want Sarah to get cancelled, to lose her platform or anything like that. Hence I titled the video, we need to talk about Sarah, not something like Sarah needs to be cancelled or Sarah needs to be stopped. The difference between Sarah Stevenson and Sarah's Day is that Sarah Stevenson is a person, whereas Sarah's Day is a brand that is slapped onto products as a label. However, each day the line between a person and a brand gets more and more blurry, to the point you can't even tell what's real and raw anymore, like Sarah prides herself to be. Beneath the pink aesthetic, the heavily touched up Instagram, the happy music, it's actually quite depressing, and as problematic as Sarah is, a part of me still feels bad for her. Again, I don't want her to get cancelled. Like I said, I used to be a fan, now I'm an air conditioner. I just really want her to take accountability and practice what she preaches for once. As bad as cancel culture is, people will forgive you if you take accountability and are genuine about it. And that's all I want. But then again, we are talking about someone who monetized her grandma's passing, lets her toddler play with screws, and has the audacity to call this lasagna. There may be very little hope here, but I'm not willing to give up yet. If you've made it this far, thanks so much for watching. This was a long one. I'm not sure if I'll be making any more videos in the future, but one thing for certain, I do need a break after this ordeal of a first video. I need bread as well, jeez. If I do make something after this, I promise I'll keep it lighthearted. Maybe it'll just be me eating a loaf of bread on camera. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Till then, thanks for watching. Bye guys.